A very troubling ruling from the Supreme Court earlier today with regards to, migrants seeking asylum in the United States. Here's the article from Common Dreams, and I'll also link it in the description box down below. And it also needs to be pointed out, our RBG, you know, the Supreme Court justice who liberals like to point out as some type of revolutionary savior who's always on the right side of issues, or who's fighting for social justice on the side of people and progress. She voted against this, and I mean, again, and she also voted against or supported, them being able to develop those, like the pipeline, the oil or natural gas pipeline, basically under the Appalachian Trail. So I don't know, she's nothing to hold up as some type of progressive hero or anything like that. And frankly, she should have retired when Obama was president, and he could have tried to appoint somebody for that spot. But anyways, betraying bedrock principle of due process, Supreme Court allows fast-track deportations. It's just so fucking disgusting. Especially considering the fact that the United States was founded on the genocide of the native people, the indigenous people that were actually here inhabiting the land when European settlers came over and colonized this land, and led to the genocide of the Native American people, as well as all the vast majority of the wealth that was built in the United States was built by slave labor, enslaving, African Americans. It's just disgusting. The ACLU warned Thursday that people's lives could be in grave danger following the Supreme Court's ruling allowing for fast-track deportations of certain asylum seekers. And again, oftentimes people seeking asylum in the United States are a direct result of horrible policies of the United States, things like fair trade agreements or the U.S. support of authoritarian regimes in Central and Latin American and other places. The ruling was 7-2 with Justices Sonia Sotomayor and Elena Kagan dissenting. I believe they were both appointed under Obama, right, when it was termed. CNN reported, currently undocumented immigrants who are caught within 100 miles of a land border and within 14 days of arrival are subject to an expedited removal process. It can be ordered removed without further hearing or review. And again, a huge majority of these people seeking asylum in the United States are doing it for very good reasons, fleeing violence, fleeing, just huge amounts of poverty, social inequality, trying to make a better life for themselves and their family, fleeing sexual violence, like all of these things. It's the United States. It's such a fucked up country. It's a failed state. If the individual seeks asylum, however, he or she is provided additional screening before an asylum officer, supervisory officer, and an immigration judge to determine whether the person has credible fear or persecution or torture if returned to his or home country. The High Court's ruling means that if the asylum seeker fails that initial screening, they can face expedited removal. I'm not going to even use that term. While people who have established connections in this country have due process rights in deportation proceedings, the court long ago held that Congress is entitled to set the conditions of a person's lawful entry into this country, and that as a result, a person at the threshold of initial entry cannot claim any greater rights under due process clause. Justice Samuel Alito, authoritarian fascist, wrote for the majority. Sotomayor warned in her dissent, taken to extreme, a rule conditioning due process rights on lawful entry would permit Congress to constitutionally eliminate all procedural protections for any non-citizen the government deems unlawfully admitted, and summarily deport them no matter how many decades they have lived here, how settled and integrated they are into the communities, or how many members of their family are U.S. citizens or residents. As NBC News reported, the ruling was a defeat for, I'm probably going to butcher this name, apologies in advance, Vijay Yakumar Thuraisengiam of Sri Lanka, who was detained by federal agents 25 yards north of the U.S.-Mexico border. He said that as a member of his home country's Tamil minority, he faced harm if returned, and once had been kidnapped and beaten, though he said he wasn't sure why he was assaulted. When his asylum claim was rejected, he sought help in federal court by filing a habeas corpus petition invoking the Constitution's guarantee against unlawful detention, but the Supreme Court said the option wasn't open to him. Justice, and these are supposedly the two more liberal justices, Breyer and RBG. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Justices Stephen Breyer and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, as USA Today reported, agreed with the judgment, but said they would have applied it only to Thuraisengiam's claim. The decision drew sharp rebuke from ACLU attorney Lee Gellner, who argued the case. This ruling fails to live up to the Constitution's bedrock principle that individuals deprived of their liberty have their day in court, and this includes asylum seekers, said Gellert. This decision means that some people facing flawed deportation orders can be forcibly removed with no judicial oversight, putting their lives in grave danger. The ruling is a win for President Donald Trump, who's made anti-immigrant policies a centerpiece of his administration. God damn, I mean, what the fuck were Breyer and Bader Ginsburg thinking? I mean, for fuck's sake, what's the point of having so-called liberal justices when they aren't willing to stand up to these fucking xenophobic, immigrant-hating, other justices? It's so disgusting and troubling, the huge amount of, anti-immigrant rhetoric, xenophobia, racism, white supremacy coming from the Trump White House, and the Supreme Court ruling just cements, this anti-immigrant policy, into law, into precedent, and it's just hugely, disturbing. It's like that saying during the Nazis' reign of terror is like, first they came for the socialists. I said nothing because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the Jews. I didn't say anything because it wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Romas. I wasn't a Roma. So I said nothing. Then they came for the journalist. I wasn't a journalist. And so I said nothing. And then they came for me, or something like that. I mean, it's like, if we are just injustice anywhere, I believe this is MLK, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice anywhere, and this is a cruel, just disgusting injustice, and just this kind of shit just makes me ashamed to live in the United States, frankly. It's just so disgusting. We're so backwards in so many ways. Peace.